Hey guys, welcome to my podcast, Talking with Bree. It's been months in the making, and I know it feels like I abandoned this project after I've gone off and on about it on social media, and I never talked about it again. But I promise you that this idea, nor the desire to start a podcast like this, really left me. I've always wanted to do it. I really wanted to start this podcast off on the right foot and the right time because I wanted it to be different than how I approached my blog 3 years ago. And I was a hot mess 3 years ago on blog, and I didn't want the same thing to happen with my podcast. So I wanted to wait for the right time and do it on the right foot when I wanted to do it, when I felt ready to do it. And I feel ready now as I'm trying to rebrand myself and breathe some semblance of life back into my blog. I felt like there was no better time to start this podcast than now. I believe that this is the right time and place for it, and I hope that you're interested in what this podcast has to offer or has in store. Same thing, kind of. Before I get into the meat of this podcast, though, I really want to introduce this podcast and briefly introduce myself. And later in the podcast, I'm going to talk about my writing journey. So, bring part 1 and part 2 of my blog if you've read that together. And so, this might be a long podcast, excuse me. I have been a blogger for like 3 years, and so some lingo might change, but sorry, and I apologize in advance for that. But talking with Bree, that's what I'm talking about right now, is for the most part an unscripted show. I'm choosing to run it similar to how I run my blog because I feel more authentic and a little bit more personable. I use the word personable because this part is scripted, if you can't tell, because I'm reading off a script because I can't get past the first 5 minutes or 3 minutes. No, I can't get past the first 30 seconds without mashing my head against the wall because I can't talk and I can't introduce myself properly. So I have a script. So I use the word personable, and yeah, we're going with it. It's a podcast that I'm running in tandem with my blog, so more often than not, you may find topics overlapping. For example, this podcast, I'm talking about my writing journey. For the most part, I'm not going to read off my blog. That would be boring, and that would basically be me second guessing everything I wrote or something. I don't know, but I'm not reading off a blog. I am going to basically say, this is what I talked about, these are the points that I talked, and I'm just going to word vomit all over the place. If that's not something that you're interested in, I understand, but that's how I'm going to try to operate. I do not like scripted things because I never really stick to them, and it's a waste of paper because I like to print them out so I could look at them at the same time as read them. So I'm not looking at a screen for a long period of time. And that's exactly what I'm doing now. Some of this stuff is not on the script. So yeah. Let's see where I'm at, because I also lose track of it and I can't easily get back into it. So yeah. Don't expect a pure reading of a blog post. The episode may have something similar, but I might expand on topics, include things that I hadn't thought of while writing them, or leave out things that are just exclusive to the blog. So if you are more of a listener, this might be for you. If you want to read, that might be for you too. But if you want to do both, they're here for you both. So if that's what you're interested in. My podcast is a deeper discussion on writing, reading, and everything in between, and I hope that you may find something here in tandem to the blog. So expect writing advice, some stuff about my writing journey, or more stuff or more insight into my writing journey, writing updates, kind of like stuff like that, my opinions on reading, books that I'm reading, stuff like that. I have like two disclaimers, but let's just get the first disclaimer out of the way. Although I'm confident that this podcast won't make any huge changes that may cause whiplash, like my blog the last 3 years, I'm sorry, but I need to say this. I can't guarantee that this podcast won't change. Meaning that this podcast is still relatively new. It's a baby, and as I learn and adapt, my podcast may shift. But for the most part, it's still going to be writing geared. So I want to be upfront about that. And I'm not someone that likes to stick. For some reason, I don't like sticking into something for X amount of time. So I might change, or I might take breaks. But I just want to be 100% upfront about that right now. Now, after all that, if you're still here, if you've been stuck around for the first part, and you're probably wondering who I am and what I'm talking about, so let me take a few seconds to introduce myself properly. My name is Brianna. I'm the host of Talking with Bri. I'm a writer, a blogger, and guess I am now a podcaster. I graduated from college last May. Some random facts about me. I have a cat named Kai. I have 2 dogs named Zeus and Freckles. I enjoy reading. I like to collect movies as well as books. I don't know what else I could say. I think that's all I have on my top of my head. If you think that's a bit short, don't worry. You'll probably be tired of hearing me speak about myself by the time this episode is over, so stay tuned for that. Now I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy days and listening to this podcast, however long it is. If you're a writer, I wish you the best of luck in your own writing journeys, and if you like, you might want to share your own journeys in the comment section below. And if you're not a writer, feel free to introduce yourselves too. There's plenty of room for discussion and talking and getting to know one another. So